Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Coscia, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. This is week number 37. Again, I remind you to reach for pencil and paper because you'll need to make some notes today. I'm pretty sure today you'll need to make some notes, and I do remind you every week. Again, I'm reminding you that you can listen to all of our past shows anytime you want on a podcast, and you'll find it at wcatradio.com/miracles/ one more time, wcatradio.com/miracles/ or you can email me at Tony and 777 at AOL.com, and I'll send you that link. So let's start out with the first miracle I'd like to share with you. Is I went to a public beach to pass out some cards about our book again. And you know from past shows that I do this on a regular basis. It's a small business card, but it gives all the vital information so people can learn about our 2 books and our podcast and all of our television shows and presentations and lectures, etc. So I just pass out the cards. It helps a lot of people. But this turned out to be quite an amazing day. I was having a great time talking to people. In this day, I had such amazing sessions, and I was talking about, the thrust and the mission of my books is mainly to convince people that they can have conversations with God anytime they want, and I won't wear you out because you've heard past weeks, but the books convince people, not just tell you about it. I use all the evidence in scriptures and all of the evidence I could get my hands on from the last 2,000 years. And there's abundant evidence we can talk to God and hear God all day long anytime we want. And the greatest proof is we've had 10,000 saints in the last 2,000 years. That's the greatest proof we have. So I was very successful. I talked to about 40 people, in some cases at the beach. They're with their family. So I gave 40 lectures, really, independent lectures. And sometimes there was, 4 or 5 people congregated because they were a family all together, and talking to 40 people over a 5 or 6 hour period can make you pretty hoarse, but I was blessed to survive all of that, and I spent all of that time feeling I was doing a lot of great things for God and helping God reach people and getting good reactions. However, I got to one person who was apparently very angry about a lot of things, and as soon as I got to the word miracles, they cut me off and stopped and spoke in a very forceful way. They were very annoyed, and they said, well, are you talking about miracles? Well, let me stop you right there, sir, and tell me, I assume you believe in God. And I said, yes. And they said, well, where has God been during this COVID-19 epidemic with all of the problems that we're having, with all the stresses and frustrations and people losing their jobs and people are dying? Tell me, where is God in all of this? If you've written books about it and you've been giving lectures about it, you must know something about it. And so I took a deep breath and asked God to bless me to what should I say and how should I say it. And I was inspired by God to mention some things to them as follows. We have to remember when we're talking about things like this current COVID-19 pandemic, we have to remember about Adam and Eve. The world and our relationship with God was splendid, and Adam and Eve sinned and caused the problem to break. Things are not the perfect creation of God now that they were intended to be. And there's stories in the Bible that tell us about things. Adam and Eve sinned and caused a breach in our relationship with God. And then after 1,000 years or so, the floods come with Noah. Noah was God's friend, and God destroys the entire world except for Noah, which is another story about a pandemic. A lot of people died, certainly, when God destroyed the whole world. And then we had Sodom and Gomorrah, where Abraham spoke to God about, please, God, relent and pull back and don't destroy. And Abraham was trying to get God not to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah if he could just find, 10 people. He started out by asking for 50 people. And Lot was his cousin, a relative in Sodom and Gomorrah. So Abraham was praying for that pandemic of a sort. And then there's the story of Job in the Bible, where it's not God causing all of the evil that's happening to Job. Job loses everything he has. His whole family dies. He goes from a very wealthy man to totally broken and poor, and even his friends are condemning him. And it wasn't God that did it. It was evil, the evil force of the devil. And that's what happened with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve allowed evil to enter into the world, and now we're contending with that. And God gives each person, every soul, the strength and the graces to overcome things. And if we work as a team, as God intended, work as an army, working for God, a team of good people, asking God what to do and being inspired by God, we can overcome these evils. But, you're asking about a difficult question. You're asking about a pandemic. First, is it something that God is using to punish, like in Noah's Ark case, or in Sodom and Gomorrah case, if he's punishing, or he's so fed up with creation as he was in Noah's time. He was so angry with all of mankind that they were so bad. And certainly today there's a lot of people that are bad. So we could understand that, because a lot of people are bad, that God's looking at us and he's disgusted with us. We can imagine that. But you're talking about on an individual basis. You're talking about one person who's suffered, and you're feeling sorry for them, and you're loving them, and I understand where you're coming from. But you're asking on a one-on-one basis. Well, there were a lot of one-on-one people in Noah's time, in Sodom and Gomorrah's time, in Job's time. Certainly, Job's children died, and you can't say they were bad. Nobody said Job's children were bad. Job was a very holy man, and he raised his children to be holy people. So we need to look at things in a different light. If you're looking on an individual basis, well, you should talk to those people who are experiencing these things, and you get to find out if they are friends of God or they're not friends of God, or do they know God, do they have any faith. If you're finding people who are friends of God and talk to them during a pandemic, you get a whole different slant on things. Now, I don't know the particular stories you're talking about, but, you have to talk about them on a corporate basis, on a global basis, what's happening, and don't blame God for all the evils happening, because certainly in Job's case, we have an example of the devil was causing all of those disasters, and the devil had power over the forces of nature and was sending fire from the skies, and so the devil has the power to do these things. And God has given us the power to turn to Him and ask Him for help and get help when we ask Him for it. So God has opened the door for us if we turn to Him. So perhaps the best answer we can give anybody who asks this kind of a question is ask them to read the story of Noah in the Bible, and ask them to read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, and ask them to read it with an open mind and an open heart to see what's going on in a corporate global situation where God is loving every single person, and because of the bad systems and the terrible results of people's bad actions, many, many souls are suffering every day. Thousands of people are suffering because of the bad people in the environment that are making them suffer. And in those cases, the good people would be asking God to destroy the bad people. And so reading those stories of Sodom and Gomorrah and Noah, you get to see why God might, on occasion, He might, and He doesn't do it every day, but He just, gets very angry and fed up, and he thinks in His great wisdom, the only thing to do is start all over again. And that's what happened with Noah, and that's what happened with Sodom and Gomorrah. He just destroyed everybody, good and bad, altogether, because, everybody's yelling at Him, asking for help, and He can't help them because all of the evils they're allowing to happen in their culture. We as a culture, as a group of people, we have to get together and stop the evil. I mean, right now we're letting people do evil things, take God out of our courts, take God out of our school, don't mention God, stop church meetings, defacing things about religiosity. There's statements on our courthouses, there's on the wall, it's etched into the wall, and it says, "In God we trust," and people are telling us to take that off because they don't believe in God. They don't want us to have that. So we as a corporate body of humans, we have to get our culture to believe in God and behave properly and do what God has been telling us. That's the corporate global thing. Now, on a personal basis, I've had losses in my family as well, and all of us have. I mean, everybody has people in their family who die, and we all go through those sad things, and we don't blame God for it for a couple of reasons. Everybody's going to die someday. We can't get angry with God every time somebody dies because everybody's going to die someday. And why is that? That's because of Adam and Eve. That's not because of God. God did not make us to have to die. People did not have to die until Adam and Eve sinned, and we were warned about that. Adam and Eve was warned about that. So it's a very difficult thing, but there are people who are sometimes raising these questions because they really don't want to believe in God and they want to put up a wall. This particular person was a part of a group of 6 people, and they were doing this with their audience there. So hopefully I helped them, but it was a difficult question, a difficult time for me too, and I don't enjoy mentioning it here on the radio either because some of you may be suffering as they were suffering. But I hope it helps you to go to Noah, the story of Noah and the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, to see that it's not God punishing all of the great people with this pandemic. If it is because it's a corporate problem that the world is so bad, we would know that that's the case. In any event, as I always stress, and our books were written with that in mind, the mission of both books and the mission of my website is the answer to all these things is to go directly to God. Each person, every single person has the ability. Go to God, ask God to inspire you with the answers to these questions, and God will answer each person who comes to Him with a clear, open heart, who really wants to have a discussion with God. Ask God anything you want, and there's evidence in our books that absolutely, and in the Bible, God speaks to everyone who really honestly has a discussion with God. So ask God all of these things. I'll talk to you next week. God bless you all.